It had been nearly 3 days since I had lost contact with my husband. Despite his prior notification that he would be unresponsive for a while, my growing concern prompted me to consider calling the police. Just as I contemplated this step, a phone call interrupted my thoughts. It was one of his subordinates, saying, "Senior, your husband has been killed in an accident." Shocked and unable to process the news, I rushed to the hospital, only to find my husband transformed. My name is Lisa, a 28-year-old woman married for 2 years. We live together, both working for an ID company. Although we aspire to have children, it hasn't happened yet. My husband, Hiro, 2 years my senior, is dedicated to his work. I vividly remember the day he joyfully announced his potential promotion. His happiness was contagious, and despite his tireless efforts, I couldn't help but feel proud. However, as the days passed, I noticed a change in Hiro's behavior. He started working even longer hours, often returning home well past midnight, and working on weekends became a regular occurrence. The once frequent outings on our days off gradually ceased. I couldn't understand why he seemed unaffected by the relentless workload. Moreover, his attitude toward me grew colder. Despite my concerns, he showed no signs of fatigue. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, questioning the strangeness of it all. Determined to address the growing concerns about my husband's changed behavior, I waited for him to return from his overtime work. As he walked through the door, exhaustion evident on his face, I mustered the courage to broach the subject. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I asked. His response was curt. "What is it?" "I'm tired and want to go to bed early." I pointed out his habitual late-night phone use before sleep, suggesting it might be affecting his rest. His defensive reaction was swift. "What I do with my free time is up to me, right?" Undeterred, I questioned his seemingly excessive workload, especially after his recent promotion. His expression momentarily hardened, and I seized the opportunity to express my concerns about the toll it was taking on him. "You work too many holidays, and it's not fair to make your employees work so hard," I said. His response was dismissive. "I can't help it. You can't understand what I do. I'm tired, and I'm coming home, so don't meddle." With that, he left the living room, leaving me in turmoil. The unease lingered, and one fateful day, after a work-related accident that left me bruised and hospitalized, I desperately tried to reach him for support. However, my attempts were met with silence. Hours passed, and frustration built as my husband remained unresponsive. Finally connecting with him, I explained the urgency of the situation. His response, filled with indifference and an unexpected lack of concern, left me speechless. "I'm sorry, but I'm in an urgent situation." "What do you mean?" "I was in an accident on my way home and had to be hospitalized. I have pain all over my body, but they said it was nothing life-threatening." "What are you doing to me?" His callous reply, urging me not to get into an accident when he's busy and disclaiming responsibility for my car, left me stunned and at a loss for words. I had asked my husband to bring me a change of clothes, a simple request in light of the accident that had left me hospitalized. However, his response was far from supportive. "Why should I do that? I'm tired from work, and I have to go all the way to the hospital for some idiot who had an accident because of her carelessness," he retorted, labeling me as the cause of the mishap despite it being the fault of the other driver. His harsh words stung, and he refused to come to the hospital or respond to my messages, leaving me on my own. The abrupt end to our call resonated in my ears, bringing me to tears. It was disheartening to see how indifferent he had become, prioritizing work over my well-being. With no family nearby, I had no option but to procure what I needed from the store. Despite numerous attempts to contact him, 3 days passed without a response. The worry intensified as I considered various possibilities, including the unsettling thought that he might have been in an accident himself. Just as my concern reached its peak, a knock echoed in my hospital room. Answering the door, I was greeted by Yuri, a colleague I typically got along with. Grateful for her visit, I explained the situation. Yuri expressed her surprise upon learning about the accident and reassured me that, despite the severity of the incident, I was fortunate to be doing well. As we conversed, the visiting hours came to an end, and Yuri, preparing to leave, hesitated. Her troubled expression hinted at something unspoken, as if she harbored concerns or information she was hesitant to share. Anxiety gripped me as I nervously questioned Yuri. Is something wrong? She hesitated before responding. I'm sorry, Lisa. I don't think this is the right time to say this, but I saw something. I saw Lisa's husband walking with Misa. The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. What? When was that? I asked, my mind racing to piece together the timeline. Misa, a junior employee at our company, had been under my mentorship since her early days. We still shared weekly lunches, maintaining a connection that spanned several years. The last time Misa and my husband crossed paths was likely at our wedding. Could it be that they had met then? The impossible notion sprouted in my mind, and I couldn't dismiss the worst-case scenario. Yuri recounted her observations from 3 days ago, mentioning Misa carrying a case. A sinking feeling enveloped me. I contacted my husband's office, confirming Yuri's account. He had indeed taken paid leave 3 days ago. The pieces fell into place, confirming my fears. The man I loved and the junior colleague I trusted had betrayed me simultaneously. The realization struck hard. Had the relationship begun even before his intensified work schedule? Each instance of his suspicious behavior replayed in my mind, and the truth became painfully clear. Subconsciously, I had been calling him repeatedly in the past few days, knowing he wouldn't answer. Yet, I refused to let him off easily, persistently ringing until he finally answered, his voice filled with displeasure. What's the matter with you? You're so persistent. I told you I wouldn't answer for a while. What's so important that you can't respect that? I'm working every day. I'm at work every single day, my husband retorted defensively. Unconvinced, I countered. You've taken a holiday until tomorrow. What on earth are you doing? His hesitation was palpable, as if he still believed he had room for deception. Swiftly, he began to weave excuses, denying any time off. I cut through his attempts to play dumb, stating, I'd already checked with the company. I know everything. Just confess. Frustrated and perhaps realizing he could no longer conceal the truth, my husband admitted, I'm exposed, right? That's right. I'm traveling with Misa. If you understand, don't interrupt me, ugly. His callous words stung. When I pressed further, he callously added, I'll divorce you when I get back. Don't bother me. The phone call ended abruptly, and with it, the love I had for him transformed into intense hatred. The betrayal was unforgivable. Determined to take matters into my own hands, I vowed revenge. However, before I could act, fate intervened. The next day, discharged from the hospital and able to move around, I'd opened my phone to seek legal assistance for revenge. As I scrolled through options, my husband's name flashed on the screen with a call from his faithful partner, Misa. Startled, I hesitated, realizing there was no escaping the confrontation that lay ahead. I answered the phone with trepidation, and Misa's trembling voice immediately reached my ears. Hello, Lisa Sr. I'm sorry. It's common sense to apologize in person, not over the phone. I responded, trying to maintain composure despite the unexpected call. Acknowledging the unconventional nature of the apology, Misa pressed on, explaining, Yes, that's right, but I don't have time for this. Before I could react, she dropped a bombshell that left me in shock. Lisa Sr., your husband died in an accident. Stunned, I struggled to find words. What are you talking about? Hiro is on a business trip with you right now, isn't he? I countered, desperately clinging to the hope that there was some mistake. Misa proceeded to share a heartbreaking story. According to her, on their way home from the airport, both she and my husband were involved in an accident. Hiro had been hit by a car, and despite her immediate call for an ambulance, he showed no signs of life. The news was too much to comprehend. I hung up the phone, quickly informed the nurse of the situation, and rushed to my husband's side. contrary to my expectation of finding him in a mortuary. Hiro was still alive, but seriously injured. The accident had left him with broken bones, and he was now on crutches. Amidst the chaos, Misa arrived breathless. Her shock was palpable as she realized my husband was still alive. Knowing that Hiro was in critical condition, I informed Misa that we would discuss the matter at a later date and decided to leave the hospital that day. In the ensuing days, Hiro managed to survive, but the accident left him paralyzed from the waist down, confining him to a wheelchair. His parents-in-law, upon learning the details of the affair trip, expressed fury. Despite any personal feelings they may have had, my in-laws unequivocally scolded him, blaming him for bringing this upon himself through the affair. I made a call to both Misa and my husband, intending to discuss the situation. Upon entering my husband's hospital room, I was taken aback by the loud argument that greeted me. If you hadn't pushed me that time, I wouldn't be in this situation. It's all your fault, my husband accused angrily. Misa retorted, "You're the one who suggested we go that way. Don't blame others. You insisted on the trip, and that's what got us into this mess. I paid for the whole trip. I want my money back in payment for my medical treatment." The heated exchange continued, each blaming the other without a hint of awareness regarding my presence. Frustrated, I reached my limit. With a forceful push of the hospital room door, I took a deep breath and sternly declared, "Stop arguing. This is neither the time nor the place. Hiro needs us now more than ever, and we must support him. You cheated on your wife in the first place. Take your blaming elsewhere." Lissa Sr., finally noticing me, tensed up. Unperturbed by her reaction, I continued, "How can you two fight under such circumstances? Do you realize the gravity of the situation?" Hiro, the first to respond, attempted to reassure me. "Lisa, don't worry. I'm breaking up with this woman. I only have you after all." Shocked, I couldn't contain my disbelief. "What are you saying now? We're getting a divorce, right?" I exploded, frustrated by the nonchalant expression on my husband's face. "You said it yourself. You claimed you would divorce me if you left or had a fight with your lover. Are you out of your mind? I can't live my life with you, Lisa." "Why?" my husband declared, his tone cutting through the air. Shocked, I responded, "I thought you loved me. Don't be ridiculous. You were the one who blustered and said you were divorcing me. Then, when things got bad, you went back together. Don't ever show your face in front of me again. You'll regret it for the rest of your life." My vehement yelling left my husband in a state of shock, and Misa, who was present, turned pale and trembled. Later that day, I was discharged from the hospital and decided to return to my parents' home for a while. Through my lawyer, the divorce from Hiro was finalized. Both he and Misa were charged alimony, which they paid in a lump sum. As a consequence of this fiasco, Hiro was fired from his job. The money he had spent on the affair was deducted from his company expenses. Additionally, his paralysis from the waist down led to his dismissal, leaving him with only a claim for damages against the company. Finding a new job with his physical condition would prove challenging. Word of Misa's affair with my husband spread throughout the company, resulting in a sudden turn of sentiments against her. Unable to bear the hostile atmosphere, Misa repeatedly missed work without permission. Eventually, she submitted a resignation letter. Now the two of them are unlikely to lead a decent life again. Despite their downfall, I feel no sympathy for them. It's a disaster of their own making. On the other hand, I rented an apartment near my office and started a new life. Colleagues approached me out of concern or curiosity, and while my feelings are mixed and indescribable, I aim to enjoy my own life without being pushed around by others. Silly rumors will soon be put to rest, and I look forward to embracing a new chapter on my terms. Second story. My husband Jack made a startling revelation after receiving his inheritance. "I don't need a life with you anymore. I'm inheriting $5 million. I don't need you when I have that money." His cold words signaled the end of our marriage, marking the culmination of a long period of living together where I felt like nothing more than an obstacle. Little did he know, a significant secret was associated with the $5 million inheritance. Mom, is it true that Grandpa is in critical condition? My daughter Sophie's unexpected question caught me off guard. The serious health problem of Ethan, Jack's father, was supposed to be a secret between Jack and me. Did you get that information from your dad? The only one who might have told Sophie was Jack. Yes, and on a call from Dad, he told me to renounce Grandpa's inheritance. Sophie's words unsettled me, and because of this single phone call, my peaceful life was about to be disrupted. A few days after the call with Sophie, Ethan passed away peacefully. Since getting married, I had lived with Jack's parents, supporting them when their health worsened. It had been 5 years since Jack's mother passed away, and now, with Ethan's passing, the funeral went smoothly. However, just when I thought I was freed from tension, my husband's behavior changed dramatically. "What are you doing here? Why hasn't it been cleaned properly lately?" Jack frequently pointed out minor dust and small stains. "I'm sorry, I must have missed it. I'll clean it right now. This place isn't cleaned well either. Do you really clean every day?" "Of course, I clean with the same routine as always." Even though I cleaned just as always, I couldn't understand why Jack was so angry, but it seemed the issue wasn't just about cleaning. "Why are you serving this? I wish you'd pay more attention to the taste when you cook." It's hard when the dishes I put effort into are criticized one by one. Even the dishes he used to enjoy were now unappreciated. "Is there something bothering you lately?" I plucked up the courage to ask, but it seemed to worsen his mood. It's useless to deny it. To be honest, the food you make isn't good. I've been tolerating it because my parents never complained, but I've always felt its tastelessness deep down. Jack's words pierced my heart coldly and sharply. It was the first time he had ever criticized me so severely. I knew when Jack was this upset, anything I said would only fan the flames. My mom always cleaned and did laundry perfectly, and at meal times, she cooked with care without cutting corners. "You're nothing like her." I've been patient, but I can't stand it any longer. This was the first time he compared me to his mother and criticized me. All I could do was reflect deeply on myself. I'm truly sorry. I couldn't have imagined that he valued my cooking so little. Jack always used to smile and say it's delicious when we first got married, and his mother gave me cooking advice. To think he has always found my cooking tasteless, tears started to flow uncontrollably. "Do you think anything will change if you cry? Your tears mean nothing now. Don't show them to me. Lately, everything just feels so tedious." After saying those words, Jack suddenly stood up and left the house, slamming the door behind him. As he walked away, I called out, "Jack, where are you going? Come back." But it seemed he didn't hear me. My mind was in turmoil, unable to keep up with this sudden change, unable to understand what had just happened. Until a few months ago, we were a couple who shared everything, holding hands, sharing the small joys of daily life, and tackling minor grievances together. I couldn't fathom why we had grown so distant, and then it hit me. I remembered the content of Sophie's call. It was about Ethan's inheritance. There was a hint of hesitation in Sophie's voice that night. Jack had come home much later than usual, and I missed the opportunity to ask him about it. Was there something going on? Perhaps Jack had discovered some information about the inheritance and wanted to keep it to himself. I tried to approach Sophie, wondering why they were discussing inheritance while Grandpa was still in good health. She expressed doubts about Jack's actions and mentioned conveying the same to him. "If the way the inheritance is divided doesn't change, it will all fall into my hands." Considering Sophie, I believed this was the best way, recalling Jack's recent cold behavior towards her. Doubts crossed my mind. If he intended to take all the inheritance and abandon me? This thought tightened my chest, and tears welled up in my eyes. In my pain, I became acutely aware of the sounds around me. Just as the room became eerily silent, the sudden ring of the phone echoed throughout. I didn't feel up to answering, but it could be important. Checking the caller ID, I saw Jack's name, the same Jack who had left the house earlier. Picking up felt tiresome, but I also didn't want to face any backlash for ignoring it, so I hesitantly answered, "What are you doing? Don't keep me waiting. I'm running out of time." His sudden, authoritative tone took me by surprise. He was indeed stubborn at times, but he wasn't someone who would yell without a reason. In the past, shocked by his changed demeanor, I let out a slight sigh, hoping he wouldn't notice. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" "I have something to talk about. I'll be home soon. Stay home and wait for me." Lately, his voice sounded unmistakably colder than before. I replied with a brief "okay" and promptly hung up. Looking at the clock, more than 3 hours had already passed since Jack went out. I had been crying, overwhelmed with confusion and pain, and I hadn't realized how much time had passed. After a while, I heard the door open and Jack's footsteps. A sweet scent of body wash, one we didn't use at home, wafted from him. That unfamiliar smell intensified the pain in my chest. "I'll be straight. I want to end our relationship. As a token of gratitude, I'll give you $220,000. His words were something I have feared deep down. Still facing this reality, the shock was so immense that I felt tears drying up. "I'm genuinely tired of you not managing things at home. I want to live peacefully in my old age." Linda had dreamt of a peaceful old age. However, the one who began to shatter that dream was none other than Jack. In front of her, he continued, "Why are you here?" Her words trailed off as she searched for what to say. Jack looked at her with a smug smile. At that moment, a bright ringtone from Jack's cell phone filled the room, the unfamiliar tone clearly different from his usual one. "I'm sorry, but I haven't finished my errands yet." Linda sensed a slight softness in Jack's voice, different from how he usually sounded towards her. It felt somewhat kinder and more intimate. Furthermore, the sweet scent of body wash in the room, the unique ringtone from earlier, and the changed tone of his voice. All these events hinted at something he might be hiding. Linda whispered quietly so that Jack wouldn't hear. I knew it. He had been too overt about his external affair. Considering the inheritance he might be getting soon, the alimony might be insignificant for him, even if his infidelity becomes evident. After ending his call, Jack looked down at Linda with emotionless, cold eyes. "My intentions haven't changed. I want you to sign this document. I'll contact you later. Make sure to have it signed by then. I don't plan to come back to this house. Remember, this house is now yours." Without uttering another word or even looking at my face, Jack headed towards the door. What did our long marital life of 40 years mean? A few days later, I found myself in a lawyer's office, gathering information about Jack's actions and Ethan's inheritance. As I explained everything to our daughter, Sophie, her complexion changed. It was painful to reveal our mistakes to our daughter, but out of love for me, Sophie let her emotions out and shed tears. She then showed strong determination to confront Jack and introduced me to a lawyer to support us. "Hello, I am Robinson. I will be handling your case. I will support you to the best of my ability," said the woman named Robinson, sitting across from me. She seemed to be in her late 40s, exuding a calm aura. Her neatly groomed hair and professional attire gave off a reassuring vibe. Her clear way of speaking provided me with a sense of reassurance. "I'm truly sorry for approaching you suddenly. My name is Lily Johnson. I'm a bit nervous since it's our first meeting under such circumstances," I admitted. "That's all right. I had already received some information from Sophie, so I was able to talk in detail with peace of mind," reassured Robinson. Based on what I had researched over the days and the information Robinson separately gathered for me, we verified the facts. My husband doesn't have any siblings, so if our daughter Sophie renounces the inheritance, the huge fortune, which amounts to about $5 million, will all go to my husband. Also, his affair with a woman named Jennifer began at a bar they happened to visit, and it seemed their relationship continued for about 6 months. She seems quite different from me, and I was curious about what happened between her and my husband. Through joint investigation with Mrs. Robinson, we were able to uncover an important fact that my husband might not yet know about. Mrs. Robinson then asked me, "How do you intend to proceed from here?" in a gentle tone with soft eyes. "Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I deeply appreciate it," I replied, smiling towards Mrs. Robinson. After a brief exchange, I handed over the fee for the procedures, and I quietly left the office. 5 days later, I received a call from Jack on my cell phone. He proposed a meeting at a quiet cafe, and I arrived a bit earlier than our scheduled time. The cafe was surprisingly empty, and the owner warmly welcomed me, suggesting I pick any seat. I chose a seat by the window to enjoy the calm outside view. After a while, the entrance bell rang, and in my line of sight stood Jack and his new girlfriend Jennifer. When Jack saw me, he smirked with a sense of pride. "Are you prepared for the divorce?" was his surprising first statement. It seemed he was convinced he was in full control. "Is this your new associate?" I hadn't expected him to bring her to such an important discussion, and I was astonished at his decision. I wondered if he was the man I once deeply loved, and whether he had changed because he cheated, or if he was always like this. "Are you Jack's wife, right?" "My name is Jennifer. I've recently started dating him," she said, smiling. I couldn't quite grasp the meaning of her sudden smile. "I've heard a lot about you from Jack. Seeing you in person, you do look a bit aged. I wonder how Jack endured all these years. Indeed, Jennifer seems to take great care of her appearance. She looks much younger than her actual age. In her 60s. Compared to her, I might look my age, but I couldn't accept the way she phrased it. It's those tendencies of yours I warned you about. But indeed, I did think that. But Jack, if it were me, I would cherish you more," I said. Jack replied, "I don't want you to overthink it anymore. I just want you to file the divorce papers." I was taken aback by Jack's expected attitude. "Hold on. There's something I want to discuss," I said, and a hint of confusion was evident on Jack's face. "What are you getting at? Is it all about your father's inheritance? Is that why, after all our years of marriage, you're deciding this? I wanted to know the truth behind all these events. I can't see how my father's inheritance and you are related. That's solely my father's. I've heard detailed stories about your father's vast inheritance from Sophie. I know how much it's worth, so what? That inheritance isn't for you to take." But I'll answer. Actually, more than the inheritance itself, the end of taking care of my parents is one of the reasons I want to part with you. Just a caregiver role. How had Jack seen me only as a caregiver and not the loving wife I used to be? I don't even have the energy to cry. Can we speed this up, Jack? And I want to start our new life. Besides, have you still not let go of Jack? Don't make me repeat myself. I'm not thinking of a new start with you. Now I want you to file the divorce papers. Waves of emotion struck my heart with intense anger and deep sadness. My hand quivered slightly. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out the divorce papers, but my name wasn't written yet. The situation isn't settled yet. To hand it over, you remember promising me the house and money, right? I clearly remember when we talked about it. Yeah, I did say that. I'm a man of my word, so I plan to give you the house and money, Jack replied. You say you're kind, but a truly kind person wouldn't just use their wife as a mere caregiver and then abandon her. So I'm demanding rightful compensation of $30,000 and the rights to the house. What compensation? When we talked about money, it was supposed to be $20,000. You always nitpick at the very end. Your attitude of trying to pay me the absolute minimum is so obvious. But the difference of $10,000 means a lot to me. So I believe $30,000 as compensation is fair. Your girlfriend, it's Jennifer, right? I thought of claiming from her too, but in lieu of that, I want to settle for $30,000, and I intend to sign the divorce papers right here in front of you. Jennifer reacted unexpectedly, first commenting about $30,000 being fine. Jack, pay it if you're satisfied with it. With Jennifer's statement, Jack finally accepted the alimony of $30,000. Now we needed Jack's signature on the land title change document Mrs. Robinson prepared and the notarized alimony agreement. Jack looked surprised by my preparations, but I calmly said, I have a life to continue, and I eased his suspicions. We took out our respective seals, lined up at the designated spot, and Jack smiled as if he anticipated something. "So, Linda, will you sign the divorce papers right now?" "Understood," I said. "Here's the divorce paper." As I carefully wrote my name and firmly stamped it, Jack couldn't hold back his laughter and laughed out loud. "With this, you and I no longer have any relationship. Also, I have something to tell you. Actually, I'm set to inherit $5 million, so I didn't need someone like you anymore. Thanks for the divorce. What a foolish ex-wife you had, letting go so easily for just $30,000. Behind me, as I left, the loud laughter of Jack and Jennifer echoed. I hurriedly left and headed to City Hall. My only goal now is to complete this procedure as quickly as possible and sever ties with the two of them completely. They might be laughing happily now, but I wondered how long their happiness would last. A month later, I quickly sold the house I received from Jack, prepared for a new life, and decided to live near my daughter Sophie, who planned to start her life near her husband's parents' home. Since Jack's mother lived nearby, I thought there would inevitably be moments I'd feel cautious. Contrary to my concerns, Sophie's husband warmly welcomed me and was always considerate, which I found very reassuring. My daughter Sophie seemed angry at Jack's actions at first, but when I told her a certain fact, her expression changed completely, and she smiled brightly. I had a hunch that Jack would soon realize my plan. As proof, I deliberately didn't change my mobile number. The day that intuition became a reality came sooner than I thought. From the afternoon, my mobile rang repeatedly, and sure enough, it was Jack. He called many times, but at first I purposely didn't answer. After receiving repeated calls, I finally picked up. "Hello, why are you doing this?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "What's the matter?" "You called out of the blue, raising your voice. What's the problem?" "Where are you right now?" I thought he might have visited the house we used to live in, but in reality, that house had already been sold, and the new tenant might have moved in, or it could have become an empty lot. Considering this fact, the image of Jack's panicked demeanor surfaced in my mind, and I felt a little sorry for him. "Since we've decided to divorce, there's no need for you to be involved anymore." "Where did Sophie go?" "I can't find her." It seems he went to Sophie's previous house. Of course, she wasn't there, and I managed all the information and procedures related to Sophie's husband's family home, so Jack had no way of knowing. "He seems to have hit a dead end and contacted me." I answered, "Yes, actually, Sophie has moved to a new place." "Why didn't you tell me something so important? Moreover, did you know about that too?" It seems my husband finally realized the truth. By that, are you referring to the significant hidden debt that Ethan had? Actually, when I investigated Ethan's inheritance in detail, I was shocked by the amount of the inheritance. But at the same time, I found out about a considerable hidden debt. Probably, while he was alive, he estimated he could repay the debt with about $5 million and hid that fact from us. However, he passed away midway through repayment, and the hidden debt was left neglected. And when you officially receive an inheritance, you are also obliged to inherit such hidden debts. Jack was blinded by the allure of easy money and neglected thorough verification and investigation. That was his big mistake. So, I have a question. Did you really know about my dad's debt? Information is easy to come by. It becomes clear to anyone with a little search. That's why I noticed it. I imagined Jack turning red with anger on the other end of the phone. Anyway, what about the promised money? What about the money you intended to return? I had my suspicions, but his real goal was money after all. Besides, about that property. If I had known about my dad's debt from the beginning, I wouldn't have gotten involved at all. I understand how you feel. I thought it deep down, but I chose not to say it. But think about it. Putting aside the money issue for a moment, you got to marry a very attractive woman, right? Isn't that pretty lucky? Of course, I don't know if Jennifer chose Jack because of his assets or if it was truly love. As soon as Jennifer found out about my debt, she left me. I thought she would. It's exactly as I expected. Linda, think about it. How about starting over with me? I feel deceived by Jennifer. I just realized now you're the person I really need. The tone of Jack's voice suddenly dropped and became emotional. I wondered if he has forgotten everything he did to me. I'm cornered. Every day, I'm being rushed by collectors, and the debt I can't repay is piling up. I'm at my limit. I really feel my life is in danger. Help me, please. Even after hearing his desperate plea, I calmly thought, if I were in this situation, would Jack help me? I carefully chose my words and took a deep breath before answering. Right now, I'm living peacefully and am truly satisfied.